Now, before we get into things like how to prevent a network from getting hacked, things like encryption, or even the uses in a company, I think we should start with what exactly is network security? Now, the thing is that network security is a process of taking physical and software preventative measures to protect the underlying networking infrastructure from unauthorized access, misuse, malfunction, modification, destruction, or improper disclosure, thereby creating a secure platform for users and computers and even programs to perform their permitted critical functions within a secure environment. This platform is actually a vital part to creating and making sure that a network keeps working not only correctly, efficiently, but also in a safe manner that prevents outside forces with malicious intent to steal information or to even make the network fail. Security for a network was not always an important aspect of a network. In fact, creating a network came a while before security was ever needed. The birth of the Internet took place in 1969 by an agency known as the Advanced Research Projects Agency, or ARPA for short. This agency was commissioned by the Department of Defense for the analysis and networking for the creation of the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. This is the ARPA net. This network went online in December and connected four major U.S. universities, which had a network designed for research, education, and government organizations. It practically provided a communications network linking the country in the event that a military attack destroyed any conventional communication system. Now, years passed, they just kept passing, and the first cyber attack actually happened around 1982, or technically in 1982. This occurred when the CIA found out that the Soviet Union planned to steal software from a Canadian company in order to control a trans-Siberian pipeline. It decided to alter software to cause a pipeline to explode, which in turn helped prevent that attack. This was known as the first cyber attack. After this first attack, the path to a network security improvement and the motion to prevent hackers, which kind of became a new term that was coined in the 1980s, it was just set underway. A man by the name of Ian Murphy began stealing information from military computers. This was a major problem, and to persecute people like Murphy that decided to use their talents for, evil, the Computer and Fraud Abuse Act of 1986 was created. One thing that was noticed about the cyber attacks was that they were very similar in every single situation. The thing is that since they were similar, it became quite easy to notice that there was an attack on the network happening at that time. So the Computer Emergency Response Team, or CERT for short, was created to alert the computer users of network security problems or attempts to breach the security of a network. This resulted in hackers trying harder to improve their methods of breaching a network security and in turn started a never-ending cycle of continuous improvement to the methods of both hacking and network security. Today, roughly 950 million individuals use the internet worldwide. Every day, there are around 255 major incidences of a security breach, which might lead to things like, large financial losses, uh, and other things of that sort. Now, incidents such as gaining access to emails that belong to the White House and the State Department, which was a breach of about 4 million current and former government employee social security numbers, and other incidents just don't cease to happen. They actually happen quite often and quite recently. The fight against these attacks will never actually end, and to us, it's of great importance to make sure that a network does not get compromised and that it remains secure for everyone using it.
A hacker is a person who has advanced knowledge in computers. They can dominate aspects like programming, hardware and software handling, telecommunications, and much more. These hacks are done for profit, for motivation, for knowledge, as a pastime, or for no purpose at all. But to name these hackers as a single community is wrong because hackers have different expertise, have different areas of interest, and even behavioral patterns. There are different types of hackers, including black hat, white hat, hacktivists, cyber terrorists, and script kiddies. The white hats are considered the good guys because they specialize in infiltrating networks with the objective of ensuring companies' systems. When they find a vulnerability, they immediately tell the network administrator so he can fix it. Then we have the black hatters. They infiltrate for malicious purposes. They like to steal valuable information. And this term, black hatters or black hat, was coined because of old Western movies where the heroes wore the white hats and the bad guys wore the black hats. Then we have the script kiddies. The black hatters call them this because they are immature hackers. They have no deep knowledge of computers or how to hack, but they use tools developed by real hackers to hack. We also have the hacktivists. They are politically motivated and they just want to provide attention for a political or a social cause. We have the cyber terrorists as well. These hackers are very dangerous. They are driven by religious or political reasons and they just want to cause fear among people. There's also a few other hackers like spy hackers, crackers, or gray hats. There have been a few famous hackers in history. The first major hacker to generate a social alarm is named Kevin Mitchell. He infiltrated Nokia and Motorola, and in 1983 he was able to hack into the Pentagon as well. Then we have Vladimir Levin. From his apartment in St. Petersburg, he was able to steal $10 million from Citibank clients just from his apartment. And he was imprisoned 3 years, but when he was let out, people still speculate that he still works as a hacker in Russia. Another famous hacker is Kraka. He is a British teenager who hacked the CIA archives, and at just 16 years old, he was able to reveal 30,000 names of corp agents of the FBI and the CIA. And he was the most wanted hacker by the US government until he got caught this year. Another hacker is Adrian Lama. He is known as the homeless hacker because he would hack from places that had public Wi-Fi. He actually outed soldier Bradley Manning, saying that he leaked Army secrets to WikiLeaks. And finally, there's Albert Gonzalez. He actually stole 170 million bank accounts around the world, and he is now serving 20 years in jail. Hackers use different methods of hacking a system. They can use computer program codes or log keystrokes that save the keystrokes the person being hacked has made. They also use algorithms to try to guess the password because many people use common passwords like 1234. The hackers use trial and error by using a mix of numbers, letters, and symbols to be able to guess a password. Hackers usually also use viruses that can be sent through pop-ups, messages, or emails. People open these viruses and they can wipe out a system or just crash it. And finally, some hackers use backdoors where they hack through the least protected area and are able to access through.
Being hacked isn't a scary situation, but we can take steps to stop that from happening. The first step in protecting ourselves is to have tough passwords and, more important, to have different passwords per account. Therefore, if one of our accounts get hacked, not all our vital information becomes compromised. Another important consideration we must have regarding our password is to omit easy target information like names and use combination of lower and capital letters, numbers, and special characters when possible. A second step that we can take to protect ourselves is to embrace two-part authentication. Websites like Google are moving toward this authentication method that basically needs more than one password to authenticate. Usually the second password is a key that is sent to us via text or email. What this type of authentication provides is a method to securely add new devices that we haven't used to access our accounts, making sure that unauthorized user can access our information from unknown devices. The third step that we can take to protect ourselves is related to how much information we share. It isn't an era of social media, but we need to be aware of the information we disclose. Because things like birthday and graduation years can be used to access our information. The fourth step we must have into consideration is to consolidate our accounts. It would be very hard to remember about 10 years of our online behavior. Thus, we must be very careful of what sites we sign in and what accounts do we still have open. It's very important to close any accounts that we are not currently using because we have users and password stores in those accounts and maybe critical information that can be used against us. A fifth step that we can also take to protect ourselves is to back up all important information offline or use dedicated services. If personal devices like cell phone get lost or stolen, pictures and other files may be exposed, and bank and other accounts may be vulnerable. Some common attacks in our days are credit card fraud and identity theft. Some general guidelines that are critical in protecting ourselves from being attacked are the following. We always need to ensure that if engaging in online shopping, the website that we're using is secure and respectable. Before using our credit cards, we have to verify that the merchandise is from respectable sources and the legitimacy of the individual or the company. After the purchase is made, it's always a good idea to reconcile credit card statements to avoid unauthorized charges. We also have to avoid throwing card information or any critical information in usable form. It is always a good idea to keep track of our bills, since missing letters or notification could mean that our account has been taken over. We have to be aware and alert of scams requesting our personal information and to never disclose your information through the phone unless we made the call. We also have to report unauthorized transactions to our bank account or credit card company as soon as possible, and it's always a good idea and beneficial to check our credit score regularly.
We have first using encryption. Second, we have training your employees to improve the security of your company, the network security of your company. Three, we have patching the vulnerabilities of your operating system. And number four, we have the use of firewalls. In encryptions, we have two sort of encryptions, which is symmetric encryptions and asymmetric encryptions. Symmetric encryptions are fast in comparison of asymmetric encryption, but and the word in symmetric encryption implies that the key or password is used by both sender and receiver in order to decrypt or encrypt the packet. Uh, good examples of symmetric of encryption are data encryption standard DES, the triple data encryption standard 3DES, and the advanced encryption standard, which is AES. For asymmetric encryption, which is pretty slow compared to the symmetric encryption, but also balances its slowness with a higher security because of its speed. Asymmetric encryption algorithms are not typically used to encrypt large quantities of real-time data. Rather, asymmetric encryptions can be used to encrypt a small chunk of data used. Um, Going through again, we're going to discuss about the employee employer user training, which is a good way to protect your network if all employees knows basically what to do, where, what not to do. So the first um, do's and don'ts and are first to never give out your password to anyone, even if that person claims to be your IT. Yeah. Do not open email attachment from unknown sources, spam emails, or we have to be careful with that. Select a strong password consisting of at least 8 characters and containing a mixture of alphabetics like upper and lowercase, numerics, and special characters. Do not visit unauthorized websites in a company like streaming movies from fishy websites. That could be really bad. Um, You have to report any suspicious activities, and you cannot install any application that is not provided directly by the company. Yep. And also, you have to, or you should, change your password monthly. Now, as for patching vulnerabilities, some attacks are directed towards the vulnerable spots on your operating system. Um, as these vulnerabilities are discovered, the vendor of the operating system or application often respond by releasing a patch. A patch is designed to correct a known bug or fix a a known vulnerability in a piece of software, compared to an update, which is in addition of fixing the known bug, all vulnerability add one or more features to the software being updated. Therefore, the network administrator should have a plan of implementing patches as they become available to reduce the risk of being attacked. Firewall is also known. Well, we have two sorts of firewall. We have the software firewall, which we all know or encounter in our PC. Um, the firewall software is commonly installed on computers in order to monitor incoming and outgoing packets requests and to block any that may be from an untrusty source. Firewalls and antivirus programs are the two most basic forms of computer protection. That's for the software firewall. For the hardware firewall, a a network it's a network appliance that acts as a firewall. This appliance can have multiple interfaces for connecting the area of a network that require varying level of security. Hardware-based firewalls usually have higher capacity than software-based firewall. However, for a small office or home office firewall, the price of and performance requirement may be better met with software-based firewall.
In this presentation, we've talked a little bit about the importance of network security in today's society. As we go forward, there are a couple main things that we should take away from this, and those are that we need to adapt to threats. We need to be able to protect our networks from outside threats and internal threats, as well as each person, each user on the network has to be able to do their part in protecting the network that they share. When it comes to adapting threats, with the amount of information that's transmitted digitally today, ensuring secure transmission of this information is extremely important. Because of all of the data that's transmitted back and forth, there are a lot of points in which hackers can gain access to that information. And because there are so many points of weakness, we have to work even harder in making sure that those points of weaknesses are protected, and when a threat is detected, that it is quickly handled. As hackers change their methods to get around newer preventative measures, we have to innovate to come up with new ways of keeping our network safe. If we don't do this properly, then we really will have issues when it comes to networking. Because as the hackers develop, if we don't develop, then our weaknesses will become even bigger as they find more holes to exploit. And even though it's a common misconception that outside attacks are the only way that a network can be compromised, internal attacks are very possible. However, there are a couple tools that can be used when protecting from outside, and that's to use strong passwords that can be easily guessed and that you should probably change about once a month. This allows for security to remain stable for each user. In addition, another thing that's starting to be implemented at different companies and different websites is two-part authentication. And that's basically when one device is trying to be accessed on the network, another device that is trusted is prompted to grant that first device access. In addition, We should be careful with the information that's being shared and make sure that it's a secure transmission, as well as the place in which it's going is a trusted location. And always, we should be backing up our information off the network. That way, in case the network is ever compromised, the information is still secure and accessible to the users. Although those are the steps for outside, some of those can transfer to inside. However, above all else, we need to be mindful of signs on our network that things have been compromised. A user can share information or have their information stolen from them, and they may not know that their account or their credentials have been compromised. And so, unknowingly, they can provide an outside attacker access from the inside. If their credentials are stolen, the hacker can actually use their credentials to make a backdoor for himself to be able to further compromise the network. But the issue started from within because the credentials that were used were trusted. They were one of the users on the network's credentials. However, once the hacker was able to get a hold of them, they were able to exploit other weaknesses and create a backdoor for the hacker to do more damage. And so some of the things that we can do to prevent that is that users should never share their passwords. Even when the source asking for the passwords is IT, they should never share their passwords. And if shared, the passwords should be changed immediately. Do not open suspicious looking emails or attachments to those emails or go to suspicious websites. Any of those can lead to viruses or malicious attacks on the network. And report anything that seems suspicious. So if there is anything on the network or on a device that seems to be out of the norm, then a user should report it immediately so that it can at least be investigated. It may be harmless, but it's rather safe than sorry. And one of the most important things is to be very mindful in the applications used on the network. If the applications aren't provided by the company or at least vetted by the company, it's better not to use them until they're properly checked out to make sure that they don't have any sort of malicious software inside of them. Each person on the network has to do their part. If they do their part, they don't have to have specific knowledge in network configuration or network security, but using common sense and using strategic planning, they can properly prevent attacks on the network. And one thing that is extremely important is for them to know at least simple steps to either recover from compromised situations or to prevent compromised situations. That may just involve contacting the network's IT or other manager. However, knowing those steps are very important when trying to recover from an attack or in rebuilding after the attack. These common steps can be used, and those steps are crucial to preventing network issues in today's society, because network security, although sometimes not seen as a huge threat, is vital in today's society because of all the information that's transmitted from one location to another. And so I would hope that these tools and these steps have been helpful to you, and that I hope that you've enjoyed this in-depth look at network security. Please keep your information safe and know what you're transmitting.